Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right. Yeah, coaches are fed up with the conference tournament situation. It's turned into kind of a joke.
It's funny because it's true.
And we're going to talk a lot about that. We're also going to do a preview to the NCAA tournament, which is really what matters now. The tournament, for whatever reason, has lost all of its value. And we'll talk about that and why. And the coaches, not only have they seen it, they've adjusted. And now it's become what it is. And we're going to start out with Bruce Pearl, who is ticked. He's not happy at all with what happened to Auburn. They won the SEC tournament. They were the 4 seed. The top 3 seeds exited immediately. They got beat on Friday. And I don't think any of the coaches were upset about it, honestly. And we'll get into that. But let's talk about Bruce Pearl. He did the right thing, technically. You know, he won the conference tournament, and that should help him with seeding, right? I mean, you just won 3 straight games, and you won the tourney. So shouldn't that help your seeding?
Wrong.
Wrong. This is Auburn's Bruce Pearl laments NCAA tournament assignment after winning the SEC tournament. Says Bruce Pearl is less than thrilled by the location of his team's opening matchup, and also they got stuck with a number 4 seed, which is where they entered the tournament. They're going to have to go to Spokane, which is 2,400 miles northwest of Auburn. Just about the furthest point from Auburn you could possibly get and still stay in the United States, other than, I guess, Hawaii or Alaska. And I don't think they play a lot of basketball in Alaska. And he's talking about how maybe they're paying the price for getting sent to Birmingham last year. And the truth is, we all know the tournament, look, they don't even have time to take it into consideration. Realize that that basketball game, Auburn versus Florida, was over around 4:30, 5 o'clock. Well, they had the announcement at 6 o'clock for the NCAA brackets. Now, how are they going to take all these teams into consideration that play on Sunday and fit them into a 64+4 scenario? It would be impossible. You can't do it. So they ignore it. They basically ignore the conference tournaments. And the coaches have gotten wise to that. The same thing happened to Tennessee. The same thing's happened to Kentucky in the past. And let's get into Kentucky, because their fans are not happy about this because they really care about the SEC tournament. But John Calipari has realized it only hurts him. So this is kind of where they are. And Calipari came out and kind of defended his team and himself a little bit, says the team cried after the SEC tournament loss. I'll bet he didn't. Since John Calipari arrived at Kentucky, he's often downplayed the importance of the SEC tournament. He said, you know, the only tournament that matters to me is after this weekend. That tournament, meaning the NCAA. Says, while it might not mean a lot to him personally, it's something that Kentucky fans have taken pride in for decades. They've actually won 32 SEC tournament titles, which is 24 more than Alabama, which is in second. That's why they call it the Kentucky Invitational. First of all, they take over the town. They usually have about 80 to 90% of the crowd in the gymnasium going nuts, and it's almost like playing at Rupp. But after they started 23-3 in the SEC tournament as tenure, recently, they are now 2-5 in the last 5 SEC tournaments. And that's because he's realized it doesn't help you any. And here's the big problem with it. You're going to have to play at least 3 straight ball games one day after the other. You might play 4. Okay, you're done on Sunday. Then that evening, you find out where you're going to go. Okay, let's say you're going to Spokane, Washington, and you're Auburn. Okay, the next day, you're going to get on a plane. You're going to fly 2,400 miles. I don't know how many hours that is in flight, but you got to get to the airport 2 hours early, as you know, take off your shoes and do all that crap. Then you fly, you get there, you finally get into a hotel room. You're not at your own home where you can really rest and try to recover after 3 days. You don't have your training center where you can go in and get physical therapy and do all that stuff. You don't have any of the things that you need to recover after playing 3 straight games. And these are high-end athletes. These are guys that are maxing out, and you never play 3 straight ball games in college basketball except that tournament. And then you're going to turn around and play that Thursday and Saturday most likely. So you're going to have maybe 2 days of rest in between there. That would be Tuesday and Wednesday at a hotel, not at your own home, not in your own bed. And then you're expected to play at a high level against a team that's waiting for you. That's not good. That is not a good recipe for success. And the other coaches have figured that out. Now, Bruce Pearl is just such an animal when it comes to being competitive. He just can't help but just go all out. But I think he's starting to realize that winning the SEC tournament actually, it almost hurt you. It did nothing for his seeding. did nothing for his location of play. They're in the worst spot they could possibly be as far as location, and he did nothing for his team except exhaust them. So don't be surprised if Auburn doesn't do well in the SEC tournament next year and does kind of like the top three did this year and just kind of flop. Because when it's all said and done, you want to go as far as you can in the NCAA tournament. Nobody's really going to care about the SEC tournament. They're going to care about the NCAA.
It just doesn't matter if we win or we lose. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
And all these coaches have figured out. You saw there were numerous high-end teams that flopped in their tournaments, not just the SEC. And Cal said, I don't put pressure on them in the SEC tournament. He said, we're playing for a seed. No, you're not. It doesn't help you at all.
I feel bad for the fans that went to Nashville to see this team. And I feel bad. But you should have been in the locker room after the game. Dudes were in tears. Dudes were in tears. So anybody that tells you they don't care about that tournament, you look at them and say, you're not telling the truth. They care. I just don't.
I didn't say the kids don't care. I say you don't care. And probably rightfully so.
Just don't put pressure on them. I say we're playing for a seed. Don't worry about the tournament. Let's play for a seed and win games. It's how I've approached it.
So there it is. When the head coach doesn't care, and rightfully so, you're not going to get the maximum effort out of the players, and you're not going to get the best coaching out of him. I noticed when Tennessee went out there, their defense, which is what they're known for, was lethargic. We were getting run around. Mississippi State went around us numerous times. They were stealing the ball from us. They were bullying us. And we were just like, I noticed our coach was sitting most of the game. I believe Dalton Connect got pulled out for several minutes. I mean, it was just like, really? Are they really trying? It's a difficult situation. And here's the thing. This can be fixed. And the way you would fix it is pretty simple. You're going to have to make a fundamental change to it. And this is what you would do. You would take the top, that for some reason they got to have 64 plus 4. There's too many teams in that. And we'll talk about football in a minute because I know some of you are going to come at me with the whole 16 deal. What you got to do at this point is go from 64 to 32 the first week. And how you do that, the top 32 teams play at home. That way, they don't play until Saturday or Sunday. They have an entire week to recover at home, especially the top teams. And when you do the seeding, you don't do it on Sunday. You do it on Tuesday, and you take the conference tournaments into account in the seeding. Then when they're playing at home, the top 32 get home court advantage. The bottom 32, you should have played better. That's why you got to travel to wherever you got to travel to play. Then the next week, you can go ahead and play 2 games in a week, go from 16 down to 8, then 8 down to 4, etc. And you can get into sort of a normal schedule that way. They've got to do something about this. Otherwise, all these tournaments are a total waste of time. And here's the thing. The reason they love the tournaments is because it's great for the city that hosts it. They bring in about $100 million when you think about hotel rooms, restaurants, all that. Anytime you have those things, it's great for that city. Well, instead of having those particular locations, cut those in half, but let the home teams get all that money. For example, if you've got a NCAA game at Thompson Bowling with 24,000 people, that place is going to be full. The restaurants are full. The hotels are full. They're getting their full rates. And that $100 million goes into Knoxville. And that way you solve this dilemma. And it's a problem. It really is. Those tournaments should be very valuable. Now let's go ahead and talk about moving to 16, because that's what the college football scene is going to be. Right now we're going to a 12 for 2 years. We're going to move to 14 and then eventually to 16. The reason that won't happen with football is very simple. Greg Sankey and Petiti are smart enough to know, make the top 8. Let's say they go to 16 teams in 3 or 4 years. The top 8 get home field advantage, which is huge. And you also don't seed the teams until after they played their conference championship. So if you're number 1, you're going to play number 16 at home the first week. That is a huge advantage. First of all, you got a 7 to 10 point advantage playing at home, and you're playing the worst team. That's why winning the conference championship is a big deal. And that way you don't have to have buys. And that's going to make winning the conference championship is going to be significant. That's how I would solve it if they're going to move to 16. I would never move past 16 in college football because that's just going to be way too many, and you're going to wind up with the dilemma you have here. This dilemma is a timing issue. If they had a full week, even if they stuck with all this craziness of sending everybody all over the world to be in neutral sites, you could solve that if you had enough time in between the conference championship. And if you took that into consideration as far as your ranking and seeding. Right now, they're not doing either. The only way it makes any difference is if you win it and you automatically get in and you were some chump team that lucked up and won your conference championship. That's the only way it makes any difference. So anyway, that's how I would solve it. But until fans get fed up with this crap and they stand up and say, the heck with this, we're not putting up with this anymore.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Yeah, they're going to have to get mad as hell and not put up with it. Otherwise, it's just going to continue down this path. And what you're going to have are the very best teams are going to rest their players. They're going to tank, for lack of a better word. Exactly what happened in the SEC tournament. And the teams that don't tank are going to figure it out. Bruce Pearl next year will know better. He'll know better. It's a waste of time. Why wear out your team for a chance to cut down some nets that nobody really cares about, honestly? So anyway, my rant's over.
Thanks.
I hate seeing an SEC tournament just turn into crap. I just think that's a shame. Such an excellent opportunity to have some great basketball. But let's get into this NCAA tournament, and we'll start out with Tennessee. Tennessee sitting down here in the Midwest. They're going to play St. Peter's, which is number 15 seed. They should win that ball game. Then they're probably going to be playing Texas, it looks like, or Virginia or Colorado State, depending on who wins the that 65 through 68 deal. And that Texas team being there, that's not an accident. As you know, Rick Barnes coached Texas for like 20 years, so obviously they stuck that down there as a rematch, and that's going to be great for TV because everybody's going to want to see that. So I think Tennessee got a pretty good situation in the Midwest. And here's South Carolina that's in our same quadrant. They're going to be playing Oregon. And then you've got, number 3, Creighton. It's a good team. So Tennessee's probably going to have to beat Texas to get into the Sweet 16. South Carolina is going to have to beat probably Creighton to get in. Let's see these other SEC teams. Texas A&M snuck in as a number 9. That's not bad. They're going to play Nebraska. Kentucky's going to play Oakland, so that shouldn't be too much trouble. And then they'll have to play Texas Tech, which is a good team. Florida got in, and they're going to be playing Boise State, but I believe they lost one of their best players. And let's see who else we've got. Auburn's playing Yale. We just talked about that. They've got to go all the way out to Spokane, Washington. And then they'll be playing, looks like probably San Diego State, which is a good team. We'll see how they do with that. There's North Carolina, number 1 seed. They're going to play Howard. That'd be easy. Clemson got in. Mississippi State got in, playing Michigan State. UConn going to play Stetson. Alabama's playing Charleston. They're a number 4 seed out in the West. They're also at Spokane. God, they put all the Alabama teams in Spokane for some reason. And those first games are March 21st, which is a Thursday. So actually, I think last time I did this video, I was thinking they played on Wednesday, but those are actually some of the play-ins. So they get pretty much about 2 days of rest because they'll be flying and dealing with all that on Monday or Tuesday. So they're not going to get much rest as far as like Auburn, for example. But, hopefully the SEC teams will do well. That's what I usually do. I usually root for the SEC teams for the most part, just depending. It depends on who it is. And I don't know about Tennessee. Those last 2 games, it almost seems like ever since they won the SEC regular season down there in South Carolina, they kind of haven't been the same. I don't know if they've just been waiting for the NCAA or whether, who knows. I don't know if they're going to be able to just turn it on or off, but they can definitely turn that defense on. So anyway, we'll be keeping track of that. But these conference tournaments, something's got to give. Something's got to give because it's just a waste of time, honestly. And if you like this type of content and you don't mind my rants, hit this little button right here to subscribe. Doesn't cost you a dime. And smash that like button. And right over here's the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy based on your viewing history. And we will see you next time on Sports Talk Jay, where I might not rant, but I'm making no guarantees.